To Black Thoughts Podcast. I am your host, Rochelle, and my guest today is Mike Thoms. Am I saying that correct?
You are.
Okay.
Very good.
Current mayor of Rock Island.
Yes.
Thank you for being here with us today, Mike. Shout out to Quad City Arts for lending us this awesome creative space. So welcome, Mike.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We had, of course, Thurgood Brooks on, so keeping it all fair, we had to invite you on as well.
Yes. Good individual.
Right, yeah, for sure. We have plenty of time to get into your past accomplishments and your future aspirations, but I really want to start out on a more human level here and just ask you, who is Mike Thoms? Where did you come from, and what made you who you are?
Well, Mike Thoms is a lifelong resident of Rock Island. Graduated from Rock Island High School in 1976, so a few years ago, giving people my age, I guess. But I went to work, actually my first job, real quick, and not to go through my whole life history, but first job was a company called Radio Shack. Sold radios and scanners and that kind of stuff. But then I got into the family business. We had a family business called Thoms Pressler Company, or TPC.
This is the food distribution.
Correct, the wholesale food distribution business, selling food to restaurants and schools, etc. And but I wanted to learn it from the ground up. So I was on third shift in the freezer, picking orders and loading trucks for our customers. Did that for 2.5 years was my first job there. Once again, wanting to learn how the business run from the ground up. It was not going to be one of these, here's a silver spoon, walk into management, you own this business or whatever it is. My brothers and I were the fourth generation in the business, so we'd been around for a long time. Used to be a business in Davenport, and then we moved it to Rock Island in '94. But so I spent 30 years working there and worked my way up the ladder. Had to earn and the respective people, do the correct jobs, and earned the promotions. And so I tried a lot of different positions, or worked on different positions. Inventory control, I drove a truck, I ran some sales routes, got into purchasing, and once again, learned a lot about the company before I got into management. And at the end, I enjoyed the operation side, and so I was vice president of operations. We had 520 employees. When we sold the business, I was responsible for 250 of them, all the warehouse and drivers. And so I learned a lot in those different roles. What about Mike? What is Mike's characteristics? How does Mike going to pick a management style? How is he going to work with individuals? And you have those things that work, and you have those things that don't work. And so I really had the opportunity to build those traits. And so I really credit that opportunity to building those traits and management skills throughout those years. And knock on wood, I guess we were a successful business,
sure.
And so it must have been right at the end. Built a lot of friends. People, the employees seemed pretty happy. And so that's, I guess, my work life part of it. And then during that time, got married. Been married for 41 years now.
Congratulations.
My wife and I have 3 kids. All of them are married. We have 10 grandchildren. 2 of the families, and 7 of the grandchildren live in Rock Island. The other one's out in the East Coast. So that keeps us quite busy. We sold the business in 2002, and in 2005 I left the business and did some things around the house, and I use the cliche, it's not quite original, but my wife finally said, I married you for life, not lunch. Find something to do. So that's what I did, is I went out and continued to volunteer my time with a number of organizations. So it wasn't just dollars, it was time. And so I got involved with Junior Achievement, Trinity Hospital, Putnam Museum, Have Life, the Navi Zoo. Got involved in a number of different organizations, and still am, helping them grow, whether it be raising money, whether it be in the development of their business, new programs they put out. So I really got to know the community from that aspect. And the family, myself and my parents and everything, probably if we anything, we focus on organizations that work with kids. We seem to have that niche and find that way. It's 100% of our future. And so working with Bethany Home, or now it's called Bethany Family and Children, children and families. But and so working with that and kind of, if you want to call it, pick that niche for the most part. in volunteering hours. And then almost 4 years ago now, I wasn't real excited the way the city of Rock Island was going. And I said, instead of just talking it, do something. So I ran for mayor. And as they say, be careful what you ask for, you might get it. And so it worked. And I've enjoyed that. I've been mayor almost 4 years now and running for re-election, which is April 6th. But, I really feel that I can add something to the community and give back to a community that gave to me and gave to the family in a number of different ways, like I did with the nonprofit organizations. And so use those management skills and leadership skills that I learned through my life to help with the city. It's a city manager style of government, so the mayor doesn't have a vote on city council. There's 7 council members that do, and so you need to use your leadership role skills and knowledge that you've learned throughout the year of the city and of the different business atmosphere, and work and try to improve things. And so that's, I guess, is real quick on the story of my life. I guess in a few minutes I could go on all kinds of details and fun and everything else and that sort of thing. But I try to feel kind of well-rounded. I've been able to experience a lot of different things, working with a lot of different people, a lot of different diverse-ish situations. And as everybody, when we first got married, we lived paycheck to paycheck. People look at me now and they're intimidated and they think, oh, there's all kinds of money and everything else. That wasn't the case for a lot of years. We didn't have furniture for 5 years of our marriage, first 5 years. Lived in a little 2-bedroom bungalow, refinanced a house several times, and pay bills and everything. So my wife and I had to, we struggled just like a lot of people do and still do today. And I can understand that and sympathize with that and want to continue to do things and give back so people can have a better life.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How would you say that, these experiences of learning the value of hard work through your company, getting involved in your community and struggling, as you say, how has that impacted your work in office as mayor?
It's helped and impacted by, there's, for example, gaming money that we have to, we don't have to, we do give to some social agencies, nonprofits. And so when picking what to do and where to go with it, that experience of working with nonprofits and everything else is a good example. You take CCC, Community Caring Conference, with Amitra Carroll. The city gives her $50,000 a year for the programs she does, and has a number of neighborhood picnics and everything else to get people together, get them out of their homes, and the city gets involved in those. So it's not just then the money, it's also showing the public what the city's about. We have fire truck there, we have a police car there, the police chief and the fire chief are in a dunk tank, having fun with the kids.
Sure.
Call it community policing in that case, but so the city, once again, I try to bring those forth to the city and encourage the city, the employees to get involved that way. We've done cleanups in ravines. And so I can use that experience and encourage the city employees to also give back and work with the community besides just their normal job and picking garbage up or fighting fires or whatever it is. So I think that I can have and can continue to bring that style and that culture to the city, along with being open door. When I first got there was locks on the doors and cameras, and you had to be buzzed in, and it's like, no. We need to be open to the public, easy access. And so that's one, I'll say, platform that I went 4 years ago, worked on, is that open door policy. And it's a cliche that a lot of people use, but there's a lot of people out there to tell you that it's worked. I couldn't tell you how many people know my cell phone number. And I could just walk into City Hall and into my office if I'm there without an appointment. The emails, I answer every email, every phone call that I get. And it's not just about me, but I want to work with that culture and ingrain that culture in the city also, city staff.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's one thing. And then the hard working is that, once again, instilling that everybody's got to put a hard day in for a good day pay. And and then you have fun. People also tell you, you got to have a good laugh and have fun. And so not only the staff, but even citizens that come in and talk, we always try to, I'll say, tell a joke or have, even if it's picking on myself, things that I do, you got to have a good laugh. It's good exercise. It helps strengthen the muscles in your face, but it relieves tension. And so that's the type of attitude that I want to bring. But it's a community. It's like a family. People tell you the city of Rock Island is, you go to a lot of them, there's transient citizens and everything else. This city of Rock Island almost feels like a family.
Yeah, that's, I've heard that as well. And you listed some pretty great accomplishments, this open door policy, the community outreach programs. If you could pick one of your best accomplishments in your time as mayor, what would you choose?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I gotta say it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because number one, there's tons of things, but there's a lot of things and in different aspects, because you could look at economic development and that part instead of saying what's the best one, and even that would be difficult. I'll pick economic development. I'm going to kind of break it down in different aspects.
Okay.
Economic development, a big company, and helping with actually called Agri Solutions out in Southwest Rock Island. They consolidated a number of operations, but moved here from Canada. So we were able to bring someone from the outside the U.S. and locate in Rock Island. And it's not a huge number of employees, but 75 to 100 employees, good paying jobs, and it was great to see that come together. And a guy could mention a number of them: McLaughlin Body, buying a building and investing millions of dollars in hundreds of jobs, or GTI, the marijuana growing plant in Southwest Rock Island, doing an $18 million expansion, and adding 100 more jobs. So those are all great successes. But then it's even the small ones. People know the QC Coffee and Pancake, Sarah and Jose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Becoming, I'll say, a legend in a name. But they bought us. They actually rented the building they were in. And in a third of that building, and have now owned the building, expanded to more than half the building. And so it's great to see that kind of success. And we were able to help them do that.
And those cinnamon roll pancakes too.
Aren't they good? Unfortunately, too good. So have fun with that. But so there's those kind of things. So on the economic development, and not to try to stretch this out or anything, but those were good. I feel good and positive about those. But then the other is getting involved in community. It's so fun to go out and talk to people. And so I go to these picnics that Amitra has with CCC, and I talk to the individuals, and it's so interesting the stories that they have to tell. Good and bad. It's not just complaining about streets, and you hear that, and plowing and that sort of thing. But it's kind of like, I used to work at your company, or, my great-grandfather was here, and I'm the fourth generation, or whatever it is, and telling those stories. It's so fun to hear those things, and people, the positive conversation. So that's, I guess, I feel is successful in getting people to open up and be out and about. I'm trying to think of some others that, some, I'll say, politicians always, what legacy do you want to leave and everything else? Yeah. And for me, it is, once again, the culture at City, I'll call it City Hall, but city employees, to view the citizens as clients, or we're in a service industry. And so treat it as a service. Answer the phone, return phone calls, get answers. Even if the answers aren't what the people are looking for, give them answers. And I'm not saying they weren't doing that in the past, but not, as far as I'm concerned, not in the expedited speed and detail that I feel that should be to those citizens. So that's where I've been working on, and we're making headways throughout the city of being customer orientated. You can't be everything to everybody. You can't make everybody happy. I've learned that.
Ain't that the truth?
You just can't.
Yeah.
Several people warned me that get into this, is that, you're not going to make everybody happy. Oh, I'm going to work at it. Well, you got to work at it. That's a good goal. But the same token reality is you're not going to make everybody happy. You're going to make decisions. The city council is going to make decisions that are going to make it unpleasant for some people and pleasant for others. And that's where you reach into your heart and say, what's right for the city? Long term, not just short term, but long term, what's right for the city?
Yeah.
Not just, and I want to say the people in the city, but the city. What's going to help it be sustainable and here for generations to come, and try to make the right decisions. And once again, we don't always make the right decisions. As a council, as individuals, we stumble.
Yeah.
But if you learn from those, that helps.
Right. This idea of treating the office as customer support is quite interesting. I've always said that everyone should work in customer service. It
Yes.
teaches compassion, understanding, patience, grit. So that's quite interesting. And you've listed some great accomplishments here. I kind of want to flip the coin on that.
Sure.
And just ask, what in your time as mayor has been maybe your biggest setback, and how were you able to overcome that? What was your approach to your biggest issue?
I want to say that, and I keep going back to economic development, and that's not everything, but one of them that I keep every reporter, everybody asks about is 11th Street, where Walmart was going to go. What are you going to do? Well, how come there's nothing there? Everybody asked about that. And so I guess I'll use that as maybe something. I had great ideas that, boy, within a couple of years, we're going to have that filled. And so I'm disappointed myself that it's not there, but it's not due to lack of trying, either myself and or city staff. So that's one thing part of the reason I got to say I want to run again is I want to see some of those things get finished. As far as the worst, the thing that I wish I didn't do or not happy with the accomplishment, this pandemic is really, and we dealt with it fine, but I'm trying to think the first three, because this last year, it's tough to do things, man, that's a tough one. And not that I haven't had failures. I'm just trying to think of, I got to say that one that I've maybe been criticized about that is, believe it or not, my speaking. I get nervous in front of a camera, believe it or not. And here we are in front of the camera.
Yeah, this is.
But whether it be the TVs, whether it be given the State of the City speech and everything, I get nervous. And part of that's humbling, it's fine. But part of it is I've made some stumbling on words. And I do have, and not to use the excuse, I have dyslexia, I've had it for years. And so sometimes I'll reverse words, it's like, that didn't make sense, and I'll go back and correct it, and someone say, no, let it go, keep moving. And so there's a few speeches and proclamations that I've read and everything else, it's kind of like, that didn't come out right. If you looked at that snip, it's kind of like, oh, that sounds terrible. And, but if you listen to the whole thing, you can hear me kind of, yeah, whatever, type deal. And so I wish I could work on that skill a little better, being more charismatic in my speaking skills. So I got to say that's probably, if I had a weakness, and the deal that I feel rough about is that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Public speaking is a difficulty for many individuals, adults and young people alike. So running for mayor is the way to definitely face that fear and overcome it.
If you ask some of my high school friends, they'd sit there saying, they can't believe this, because I was very shy in high school. Very shy. I mean, it was school, go home, because I didn't want to socialize or do anything. I was extremely shy.
Oh, it's hard to believe.
It is hard to believe. If people say, no way, and everything else, well, it is way. And like I say, you talk to some of my high school friends, they'll start saying, yeah. And so maybe just a late start in life, and I'll get there eventually, but I have fun. And I do, now I talk, and sometimes they can't shut me up. But so that's something I need to work on.
Sure. We've listed some of your accomplishments, some of your setbacks. I'd kind of like to jet into, if you are reelected, what project is going to receive the highest priority from you, and why?
I would say that there'd be two projects.
Okay.
And one is really more recent with the new aid that came from the federal government. But the very first one is rejuvenating downtown. In this time, in the 70s and 80s, we were ahead of everything. The amount of housing that was going on down there, nobody thought about doing housing downtowns. It was retail, and boy, that was about it, or office buildings. And I was here, but I wasn't involved with it. A guy named Dan Carmody and John Phillips, the city manager, and Mark Schreiber had the foresight of really making the arts and entertainment tagline down here, and then in the housing, and it worked great for a number of years. Unfortunately, times change. We didn't change with that. And not that arts and culture and entertainment's not still a thing, but how you address it and everything else is different. And so the downtown got tired. The investments weren't there. Some of the businesses, once again, malls hit and shops, retail left, some tough times in the mid-'80s with the economy and everything else. And so just things changed, and the downtown got tired. And there's not a lot of foot traffic. So the city did a study, not to get into too many details, but the city did a study in 2015, once again before me, spent money, got a lot of citizens' input, and came up with a revitalization plan. Unfortunately, we didn't have the money to implement it. So over the years, between now and then, some things have been implemented, but not huge statements or things, as we've had some money. Well, we've now been able to, we have a TIF down here that was expiring. We had a little pocket of money left over, $1.5 million, and we said, hey, let's invest it downtown. And actually we had $4 million, but it's in several things, but $1.5 million of it in the infrastructure downtown here to start revitalization and speed that up. So that's what I want to see through, and I think would be a great accomplishment to put a new face, a wow factor in the city, downtown of the city, and see retailers come back independent, be able to help small entrepreneurs and independent people open some shops.
Yeah.
Not just, once again, I don't want to belittle it, but not just bars and restaurants, but we need some retail shops. We need, whether it be an ice cream shop, a bakery, a deli, a climbing wall for kids or whatever. Well, adults could do that too. But those type of things to see coming down here that are more arcade, that are more today's time than they were then. And the downtown is, by the way, is not just this, people think it's this 2-block area that we have down here. It's, in my opinion, it's from the river up to about 7th Street, or 7th Avenue, and it's from Centennial Bridge, which is 15th Street, down to 20th Street or so. That's the downtown. And so we need to work on all those areas. People just talk about these couple blocks here, and they're important, but there's a lot of places, businesses that are currently very successful in other parts of the downtown. So that to me is the downtown area that we need to continue to work on. The other is going to be streets. Boy, knocking on doors, especially even this time, if there's number one comments of anybody else, fix my street, the potholes are terrible. And at this time of year, they're even worse than normal because they haven't been patched yet. But there are some bad streets. There's no doubt about it.
Enough so that there are quite a few memes and jokes about it.
Yeah. Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Yes, there are. And I've had a flat tire from them. It's not like I'm exempt from it.
Sure.
But so we don't have the funds to do a lot, but we do now. And I don't know if you or your viewers have heard, the new relief package just gave the city of Rock Island $27.5 million. And one of the primary things it can be used for is infrastructure, streets, sewers, water, that kind of thing. It probably could be used for other things. We don't know all the rules and regulations and hooks to that $27 million yet, but we do know that we're able to do that. So I feel, and once again, my push to the council would be that not a lot of it, maybe not even half of it, but a lot of it, go to help with streets. And it's not just patching streets, it's repaving streets, getting that subsurface so it's a long lasting. You don't want to use this money for a short-term deal, and 5 years from now it's kind of like, where did it go? It doesn't look like we did anything. Typical street lasts about 25 to 30 years. So that's what you want to spend it on, is resurfacing and doing that right, along with other things. There's a lot of other things we can use it for, but those two things, you asked for one, I gave you two.
Yeah.
The downtown would be a top priority, along with identifying streets that we can fix up, and then we work from there. Once again, I'm going to go back to downtown to show the emphasis of that. So if your viewers haven't seen, is that we have taken and we've got a contract with the Quad City Chamber, and they're hiring for the City of Rock Island a downtown manager. And the city's financing this person for 2 years. Then they have to work on the private sector to help finance this individual, but to strictly focus on downtown, building relationships with not only business owners, but building owners, because they're two separate things. Quad City Arts here is a business or a nonprofit organization, but doesn't own the building. And so you want to have a relationship with the building owners also, because they're the ones that have to reinvest in the buildings. Are they letting them deteriorate and look bad? And so this downtown manager will work on building those relationships and economic development and revitalization plan. Three major things. And by having this individual, it can be focused just on downtown. The city has staff that's economic development, but once again, we get pulled in different directions. Somebody says, oh, I want to talk to you about 11th Street in Rock Island. Oh, I want to talk about Southwest Rock Island or housing. We want somebody to focus on downtown, and that's all they have a concern for. And then the rest of the economic development department works on the other part of the city. So that's the emphasis that we want to continue to put down here. This chamber is doing that and has been doing it for downtown Davenport for 40 years. They did it downtown Moline, and they're doing it downtown Bettendorf now. So why not use the experts? And so that's another thing we've done downtown. So that's putting the emphasis on that is very, very important to me and the council. I get sidetracked, and I apologize. My mind goes in different things.
Feel free.
We talk here about me and my thoughts and my visions and everything else, and I can give you those. But it's really driven by the whole council. We do goal setting. 7 council members are also getting input. They have the vote. I don't have a vote. I only vote if there's a tie. So I can help impress on my visions and my thoughts, but it really is a group and team effort. And then with them, they represent the citizens, and they should be out amongst the citizens getting opinions and thoughts, because that's who they represent. And so a lot of things that happen are a team effort. Elected officials and city staff are a team effort, along with then input from the citizens through a number of boards and commissions. We have 25 boards and commissions made up of citizens of Rock Island. Then you got the 7 elected officials, and we have some ad hoc meetings and everything else. So we have quarterly town hall meetings. So that's where it really puts together more than one individual. It happens to be the top of the pyramid if you ask about that, but I don't have any hiring and firing that latitude or voting. The mayor just doesn't do that.
You just take all the heat and you're the top rung of the
That's
ladder.
exactly. There's no doubt about that, and that's fine. You also take the good news when it comes along too.
Sure.
But we have mayor pro tems, and I believe in letting them have some of that too at times. But it's a team effort. It can't be a dictatorship and one person runs the ship. It can't. It's not fair to the people here in town. So they should have a say-so.
Yeah. So infrastructure, repaving the streets, and downtown. Yeah.
Yep.
I have some fond memories of downtown as a 22-year-old.
Ah, yes.
But as a 27-year-old, there is not much drawing me back here now.
That's correct.
So that would be interesting.
It's once again, can we have once again, whether it be a jazz bar, a piano bar, speaking of bars, but it doesn't always have to be bars, but once again, a deli. How about an old-fashioned ice cream shop where they got the cream soda type deal, and you can go in there and get a sandwich and some ice cream or whatever.
Now you're making me hungry.
Yeah, that's exactly. So am I. So it's one of my favorites. I keep using that example.
Sure.
It's one of my favorites. But those type of things, an arcade,
a little more family friendly, if you will.
Yeah.
Sure.
Virtual reality is as popular these days. Should there be a place like this that offers different games, Dungeons and Dragons or whatever in virtual reality? Different things to attract different ages and different characters.
Yeah.
Characteristics of people. That's what we need. Now, just redoing the downtown doesn't make them happen. You got to try out, and how do you find those people to do this, take that risk and be that entrepreneur? And that's where it takes word of mouth. It takes some incentives. Unfortunately, we got to give some financial incentives. The biggest thing that people are lacking is capital to do it. I got a great idea, but I don't have any money. Very common. And so the idea just sits or doesn't go anywhere. So can we help them find some capital? The city, unfortunately, itself does not have it. It's got little monies here and there, but the taxpayers' money, we've taxed the people enough, and we just don't have that kind of cash to be able to. Here's a $10,000 grant, free of charge, get your business started. I wish we had that kind of money, but we just don't.
And capital is one thing, but I think continuing to support their endeavors after they have launched them down here is what's going to keep them here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting vision. I appreciate you sharing that with us. We've kind of gotten to know who Mike Thoms is, who he is as mayor, and what he's done. I would like to end with my final question being, I love the state of Thurgood challenging your position. Healthy competition is wonderful and fair, and it's what our country was built on.
Absolutely.
But if we can add a little dissonance and a little tension to this conversation.
Let's stir the pot.
Let's a little bit.
Stir the pot a little bit.
I have to. I can't leave without. Why Mike should the citizens of Rock Island vote for you over your opponent?
You know, I think the number one thing is my experience of leadership. And not to talk about Third Good. Third Good talks about he's, started up a couple of nonprofit organizations and coached some basketball.
He has a lot of the same history as you do.
He does, but not as many years of it. He's 27 years old and I'm 62. Now I'm not saying young people can't do it and everything else, but because of my experience in a number of years, I think that the diversity of leadership and the be able to dance the dance, so to speak, that I can do that a little better than he can. Third Good is a very intelligent, dynamic individual, very passionate, really has the city of Rock Island in his heart. So I'm not, I'm going to sound like, hey, you vote for him, type of deal. But no, but it's true. It really is true. And so you're trying to stir this pot, but I can't say those negative things about him, short of, I think that my personal opinion, and we're really reaching out here, run for city council or school board or some of those things and continue to get that experience of working with public monies and municipalities and that sort of thing, I think would help. I think the city needs that extra leadership. Am I doing it perfect? Probably not. But I really do, and I don't think he's given me credit for some things that he's wanting to put in place. He thinks that, and I'll use the West End, that it's been forgotten and not seen and everything else, and that I've forgotten about that or not seen it, or the city, either myself or the city. And I beg to differ on that one as far as the topic goes, is that I personally have continued to work with a number of organizations, the Friends of Douglas Park, for example. They and the city have put in over $1 million in that park. It got forgotten for a long time, correct, but not now. It hasn't for the last 6 years. There's been people working very hard at bringing it back to life. You look at the new turf there, and the fencing, the lights. They're working on lights this year. We're rehabbing that old firehouse down there and everything else. It's bringing it back to life where it should be. And so it hasn't been forgotten. And so first NFL football game, I don't know, you're awfully young, but I don't know if you heard that before. First NFL football game was played at Douglas Park.
No, I have never heard
101 years ago. The very first NFL. Canton, Ohio takes credit for it because that's where the museum is. We kicked off before they did the same day. The Independents, and I can't remember the other name of the team. Very first NFL. I'm going to go down a different rabbit hole real quick. Because of that, they had their 100th anniversary 2 years ago, the NFL. I think it was 2 years. I lose track of time. This pandemic really caused some problems. Yeah. They do the NFL draft. And before, they used to do it in different towns, Chicago or Cincinnati, or all the draft picks. And they televise this thing and make a big deal out of it. For the 100th one, they wanted to go back to areas where there was football teams that are no longer football teams there. Rock Island, they came to Rock Island. Said, would you guys be interested in being involved in the draft? I was mayor, and I said, absolutely, we would love it. Now, we had no money in the budget to do this. We didn't know what exactly was going to involve. But we wanted to be recognized nationally. We wanted to recognize what the city leaders did back then and what Douglas Park represented. And so we scrounged up money, found sponsors and everything else, and we put together a huge party for this deal. Now, we were going to get one pick. They promised us one NFL pick. And it was a lousy day, raining, cold, and everything. We held it at Augustana just because of the weather and the artificial turf there. We would have liked to do it at Douglas, and we had more enthusiasm than any other city that we got 3 picks. As we did that one, they came back to us and said, we want to do another one. I mean, it was live, short notice. We want to do another, 3 of them. And so that's what Rock Island's about. I bring that one thing, one issue back, but that brings the light nationally to the West End, the Douglas Park, for example, and the city of Rock Island. So back to your stirring the pot and everything else, that's just one issue. 7th Avenue was repaved not too many years ago. Not just not concrete or asphalt on top. It was torn up and redone with a boulevard, and it looks nice. Martin Luther King Center has had some remodeling expansions, as an example. Then the controversy here recently is what used to be Arshel Courts, now is Century Woods, a low-income housing project that has been neglected for many of years. It's owned by was owned by a private individual. They were selling it. We gave what they call a TIF, some financial incentive with taxes, to incentivize them to remodel it, this new company. They in turn are spending $16 million in renovations down there, gutting every one of the apartments, refrigerators, freezers, gutting it. Now, been some criticizing is, wait a minute, they don't have screens on the second floor, or they don't have, there's nails and there's a dumpster out there and everything else. It's still a construction zone. They need to maybe do a better job because there are kids running around there and everything else. But the city doesn't control that. Even though there's city funds going into taxpayers, we only have certain abilities and rights to be able to criticize. HUD, it's federal money. The financing came from HUD. It's a federally financed program. So any criticisms needs to go to Sherry Bustos, Representative Bustos.
Passing the buck.
I am.
Yeah.
I am, because it is federal. And once again, you got to take the heat and you got to take the pleasure. If she's going to come down here and talk about, I got this money for them, that's great. But if there is something not going right, you got to take that too, just like I did. And that's federal money, HUD. If they're not following, this new company's not following the rules and regulations on how it should be, the reconstruction should happen, what type of policies are in place, that's where it's got to come from. Unfortunately, it's not the city. Now, there's a bad road out front on 5th Street, and we're going to work on that. That's a city controlled. So there, I think, once again, I have a little criticism that they're dragging the city in on this, on social responsibility. And we can do some things, but a lot of it's beyond our control. There are, believe it or not, laws out there that the city can't just walk into a house. If we think that the floor is rotted, we can't walk in there and sit and say, that's bad, fix it. It's private property. If we think it's unsafe as far as no running water, no toilets, that sort of thing, then we have a right. So there's a fine line there on what city has not just the responsibility, but the legal rights to be able to do. And so I'll criticize that part of it a little bit, they're good. The other one, to me, is even bigger. John Deere Foundation came to us several years ago, and I say several because, once again, the pandemic caused a little problem. And they said, we would like to help and do something to re-energize the west end of Rock Island. I'm not sure what it is. So what they'd like to do is they seeded $60,000 for us to hire a consultant to evaluate what is needed. And by doing that, they go door to door and talk to the families and everything else. What are you lacking? Is it transportation? Is it training in a trait? Is it schooling? Is it counseling? What? Or all of the above? What is it? And go door to door and then talk to, I'll call it other stakeholders. Trinity Hospital, Robert Young, Christian Care, a number of different organizations. And they're saying, what do they see is part of what's missing? And then take this report, and this is where I get criticized. They say, well, yeah, you got a good report, but now what? The John Deere Foundation, along with potentially maybe the $27 million, we can then enact what they find, actually put action to it. It could be a huge impact on helping individuals that are great people, but are struggling for different reasons. If you try to ever go file for unemployment or get, I call it food stamps, getting old, but the card, it can be cumbersome. I have a tough time looking at all the reports. How do I get there? Those type of things. Those are what we need to work on, if that's the issues. To help people be productive in what they want to strive for.
Social services.
There you go, social services. But once again, some people just need counseling. I've talked to several of the people associated with Black Thoughts blog.
Don't we all?
and that's right. But it's once again, there's people out there that just may need a counselor of some sort, may need a directory of where to go. Who takes care of what? I don't know where to go. I got this problem, but I don't know where to go. And when I get there, what to do? So is it somebody that hold their hand? I don't mean that derogatory, but help them and follow through with it. And instead of just giving them food, they always talk about give them a seed to grow, learn how to grow and everything else. I look at it that same way, is how can we help with people that are struggling? And it happens all through the city, it happens through the country. And so that to me is one of the biggest things that I've been involved with. I personally went down to the Carver Foundation in Muscatine and helped get a $250,000 fund or grant to be able to help these kind of things. And so if there's a pot to stir, I guess I'm going to go back to your long question a half hour later, and I apologize for doing that. You know, that stirs the pot a little bit. I start taking that a little personal. It's kind of like, no, those areas have not been forgotten. In some cases, we just don't have the funds. We don't, you know, or the people to do it. The funds just, it's amazing. There's just not much there.
So with this issue, you could excuse yourself with maybe the bureaucratic red tape of politics?
Yes.
Sure.
I would say that's part of it. And once again, one thing leads into another, and we talk about funds, and an Achilles heel of the city, and I love the firemen and policemen, but the pension funds with them is a huge obligation on the city. And let me give perspective to that type of obligation. We collect about $14 million in property taxes. And our property taxes are fairly high. $14 million. $9 million goes to just their pension, police and fire pension. No payroll, no nothing, just their retirement a year. And that dollar amount goes up by $500,000 every year. So it'll be $9.5 million next year, $10 million the year after that. Okay, and continues to go up until 2041. So we have a huge burden. So how much cash does that leave us to do things? Now we do gather sales tax and some income tax and that sort of things. But you still got to then do payroll and everything else in the city. You got to plow trucks, pick up garbage. And so it doesn't leave us much, unfortunately. And that's where it hamstrings. So I hate to digress on that part of financials, but it leads into then social issues and everything else that people say, no, you need to prioritize and do social. Well, unfortunately, people expect us to have water, sewer, collect garbage, plow the streets and everything else. And you get to the other part and it's kind of, it's not there, or much. Now there's $27 million we just got, 27.5. We're hoping that can, if invested and done right, can help that tremendously, at least for the next couple of years.
So it's safe to say that you would expect or assume if Thurgood were in your position, he would face the same challenges and delays.
I know
with
he would.
What he's criticizing.
Yes, I know he would. And as much as, he talks about bringing his team in and going through the finances of departments and everything else and trying to find more money. And he may, I'm not saying that there isn't, always talk about, can't cut anymore. And you always can maybe find a little bit here and there. But I'm telling you that we've scrutinized this very hard the last 3-4 years, and he is going to run into the same problems. If you take this $27.5 million away, he'd run into the same problems. The $27.5 million changes the game a little bit. We don't know how much yet because it just happened this week. But so yes, he would face those same type of issues.
Okay. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being here. This was really great to get to know you, your position, and what your plans are. Just my last thing here.
Oh, don't open that door.
Hypothetically, if you were to get reelected, is Thurgood someone that, hypothetically, you would consider having on your team?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't consider it. I would do it.
Wonderful.
Thurgood is a great individual. What I've known about him, I don't see anything negative of those things. He's a great asset to the city. He really is. And why waste that talent? Utilize it. I'm a believer in that. Once again, I felt bad the city didn't reach out to me before I was mayor. Instead of saying, hey, get your Rolodex out. Do you know somebody that can help with this or whatever it is? We got to utilize the talents that are around us and with us. They don't have to be elected office to use those talents. So why not?
And if you were not reelected, you would support his term and give him information to help him in his journey?
Oh, absolutely. Once again, I'm the type of person that whether you're Republican, a Democrat, or anything else, the president is the president. The governor is the governor. Whether you like him or hate him, they're there. The people elected them and put them there. Support them. Otherwise, you're defeating what you stood for before. If you sit there and fight in the system, now you're trying to do, undo what you, as a good citizen would be wanting to do. So absolutely, I would support him. I'll say support him and the council, because once again, it's not an individual, but it's the council. And so if the council's wishes and they do their goal setting, I would support what those goals talk about. Whether it's his or the council's or a blend of them, that's what I would support.
And I would say, regardless of the results of the election, these campaigns have really garnered support. It's really gotten people up and awake and getting involved and motivated.
Absolutely.
So I think after this election is over, we're going to have a lot more support and a lot more awareness and people wanting to get involved moving forward.
Which is great. There's nothing worse than I've talked to some people knocking on doors, and like I said, you keep opening this door, but they don't even know. Well, what about the county courthouse? No, that's the county. This is the city. People are uneducated on some of these things, and they go vote just based on popular demand, the last yard sign I saw, whatever it is, instead of getting educated. And so what is positive about these things, and if we keep it positive versus slamming each other, and we're not. Thurgood and I
you can't. Yeah, you've got a platinum.
That's exactly. No, but I think we should be positive on these things. As type of deals, educate people, get them engaged. And I think then it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, sure. I would agree. Thank you again, Mike. It's been wonderful to have you. Our audience is grateful for this opportunity.
No problem. Appreciate it. Thank you.